I was looking in the mirror. Its reflection covers the whole room. But I cannot see you.
Dracula? Well, what's he done to you? Tell me, dear, what's he done to you?
He came to me. He opened a vein in his wrist and he made me drink. I can't die with all that blood on my conscience.
Pictures, I'm wonderful to see. I ought to be in the pictures. Oh, what a hit I would be. La da 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 da. Pictures, oh la da da. $2,422,503.51. Yipe! I got some nice candy for you. Here, little auntie. Here, little old ant fella. Look what Uncle Porky's got for you. Here, old auntie, old ant. Here, auntie. Here, auntie. Here, auntie. Look at the pretty candy I've got for you. Look at the That's all, folks.
Let no one leave. Move only at your peril. We will not stop until we have discovered the vampires who seek the life of this beautiful girl and her lover. Watch out! They may be hovering over you, or you, or you! Danger stalks through the night. No one is safe.
Their fury would follow us to the ends of the earth. No, we must destroy them all together.
Scourge of mankind. They
they shall be found. I hereby summon to this place next week every person within the sound of my voice. You shall be judges of this eerie conspiracy. Here we shall meet Lionel Barrymore, Elizabeth Allen, Bela Lugosi, Jean Herschel, Lionel Atwill. Mark of the Vampire.
Good evening, goblins and ghouls, and welcome to the Friday Night Scream Stream. I'm your host, Spakenstein, joined as always by my very good friend, Mr. Evan Sink.
Good evening.
How we doing tonight, Evan?
Doing great. Glad to be here. Welcome to Friday, everybody.
You made it. It's if you've had a long week, if it's you just been dragging these last the last 2 days, you've just been waiting for Friday night. You're here. You made it. You can relax. Take a deep breath.
Sometimes you slide across home plate. Sometimes you drag across, but you made it.
You made it.
You're safe.
Safe. Yeah. And Evan is a licensed umpire. He can make that call. He has been certified. So, welcome everybody. Hope everybody's doing good on this Friday evening and enjoying this, kind of respite from maybe it's been a long week or just a long, tiring, exhausting week. Whatever. Not me. I can't say that it's. I've been on vacation, so I can't. I can't say that I've been.
Maybe you need a break from your very stressful vacation you've been on.
Yeah. Oh my God. Such a. I just couldn't wait to take a vacation from my vacation. No, it was good. I was up in the mountains and. Staying at
You were in a cabin in the woods.
It sounds like the plot of a horror movie. Yeah, it does.
So did anything happen? Anything creepy happen? See any monsters out there in the woods?
Yeah, actually, there was this fire monster that was running around.
Fire monster?
Yeah, man, it started to get real smoky, and you'd be like,
okay,
where's that smoke coming from? And then you follow the trail, and then all of a sudden, out from behind a tree, smoke monster.
You guys were in
monster.
California.
Pretty close to it. There was actually a controlled burn going on, like literally. It couldn't have been any more than like half a mile as the crow flies. It was not far. Was I afraid that we had accidentally burned down the cabin? Yes. No, it was good though. It was fine. It was a scheduled controlled burn, but
so you woke up, smelled smoke, and then screamed, "Everybody get out of here! We gotta go!"
Well, it was one of those things. Was we left for a little bit, and then as we're driving back, you see this plume of smoke, and you're getting closer, and you're like, "That's really close to where we're going to right now." Like,
yeah.
And I had to get right before the cabin to realize, oh no, it's just across the way. It's not close. It's on the other side of this body of water. So, but yeah, no, it was all good. It was controlled. So, but I had it was a good time, and no horror movie, no horror movie come to life for me.
Okay, well, you had a body of water, like a creek.
Yeah, creek.
Got the creek.
It's,
a fire monster can't cross a creek.
Nah, that's his one weakness.
You know what else can't cross a creek? Segway.
What? Tell me of
A vampire.
Oh, yeah, because it's a cross. And that's very good segue, Evan. Because tonight we are getting into, God, I don't know the last time we've had a vampire movie on this show.
It's been a while.
I try to do one a season, but it's been a minute. And so tonight we're getting an early one. Tonight we're going to be watching Condemned to Live from 1935.
Really early.
That's really early. And this is an indie effort. I mean, again, this is the kind of the classic, the golden age of classic horror, the 1930s. When Universal was obviously making their, now just some masterpieces, some okay horror movies. But you had a lot of indie studios making horror movies at this time. And so tonight's film comes from one of those little indie studios from some filmmakers that we've covered before on this show. That's the interesting thing about this movie and kind of about these indie horror films from the 30s is that a lot of the same people are usually involved. It would seem like a tight-knit community. There weren't a lot of people making indie horror movies at the time. We talk about like the 60s and the 70s where just some person out of West Virginia went and made a horror, a couple horror movies. You always can get some random regional effort, which is always fun and exciting. But in the early 30s, it was just kind of on the dregs of Hollywood. You had these people who were, because again, back in
scrappy horror filmmakers.
Yeah, in the early 30s, if you were going to make an indie horror film, you had to be scrappy. You had to be really kind of scrounging for whatever resources you could get your hands on, which led to some really interesting horror movies. And the ones that we've seen on this show, most of these indie horror films from the 30s are in the public domain to our benefit. But of course, White Zombie, maybe the all-time, the greatest public domain 30s horror film that we've had the pleasure of seeing. But we've also had The Vampire Bat, which we saw back in season 6, I think. It was a while ago. And it's, I don't know if you remember that one, Evan.
Wasn't that the one where it wasn't even really a vampire?
Yes, that was that one. And so that, depending on where you land on, I love that movie. But I know it's with the vampire thing, again, spoiler alert, kind of being a cop-out. You may land differently on it, but I love that movie just because it looks and feels so much like a Universal horror film, which, again, we don't have any of those yet. We'll get in a couple years once they start entering public domain, but for now, we'll take whatever we can get. And this actually comes from some of the same filmmakers behind The Vampire Bat, and some other movies that we've watched on the show. So we'll get into all that.
Does this also look like a Universal film?
It does. We'll get into that tonight.
Okay,
it is interesting. Again, yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of the old fact sheet here. We're gonna be getting into all that tonight.
We got a lot of facts to get to.
A lot of facts about the people involved with this movie and the connections to the other previous early 30s horror films that we've seen on the show. So, pretty excited for this. I haven't seen this one before, so should be. And this one, if you haven't seen it before, apparently does something a little different with the vampire mythos. So we'll also be talking about like the subgenre of vampire movies at large, kind of the history of that tonight as well. That'll be another fun thing that we'll be getting into. A lot of fun stuff in store tonight.
A lot of things to sink our teeth into.
Yes, and one of those things that I'm very excited for is the wonderful cocktail that Evan brings us every week in a segment which we call...
What were you drinking?
What are we drinking tonight, Evan?
Well, tonight we've got a appropriately vampiric themed cocktail. This is the Vampire's Kiss. And what I thought was interesting looking back, we've watched, you could say, a few movies on this show by now. And we've had a few cocktails. And we've had a few vampire films at this point, right?
Right. Yeah.
But you know what we really haven't had? We have not had an actual vampire-themed cocktail. We've had bat-themed, we've had blood-themed, but unless I've missed something in my my retrospective, we've not had an actual vampire-themed cocktail. So we're finally getting around to that. This is the Vampire's Kiss. It is lemon juice, vodka, raspberry liqueur, and club soda. And we're also going to rim our glasses with some it's thinned raspberry jam. It's kind of like a syrup.
Okay.
Just thin it with some water and whisk it a little bit.
All right.
So
that's their recipe for homemade fake blood.
It is, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we could have gone with the real stuff, but we're environmentally conscious.
Right. We don't just have blood to be thrown around willy-nilly.
There's a blood shortage.
Yeah, did you know?
Have you heard about the blood shortage?
Know about this?
There's not enough blood. People don't have enough blood.
What do you think this is? You can just go into the blood bank and make a withdrawal? What do you know? Come on. If it was that easy, vampires wouldn't need to be the ghouls they are. They just, you imagine hipster vampire just going to the blood bank, doing his grocery shopping, looking for some organic blood. I'm more partial to the classic vampire. I like a good caped up vampire with his fangs rearing to go. And this looks delicious. I'm rearing to go.
I was hoping the raspberry jam might be a little more red.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised.
It's kind
I
of
wasn't
white.
Expecting it to be as light. I thought it'd be a little more.
It's a little kind of a pink cocktail. You might need some food coloring for this one.
Right.
But it smells
delicious.
Pretty dang good, really. So we've got our sweet on the glass, our sour in the glass. We're gonna give this a try.
Cheers.
Cheers. That's pretty good. It's
good.
Light. It's light, and that jam got a really nice sweetness
Gives
to it.
It's very, I don't know. Yeah, just light is the best word for it, for sure. It's definitely not a stinging drink at all.
Right, yeah. I love anytime we get fresh squeezed citrus. I'm always
that's what floats your boat.
It makes such a difference, man.
Yeah, it really does. No, it does. I mean, this is I don't know that we've had any kind of raspberry forward
not really
cocktails.
I got this raspberry liqueur, and I think the only time we've used it was for something last winter. So one of the wine things we did.
Okay,
the spiced wine, I think.
The hexavine?
Yeah. I think
okay, yeah, all right. Well, I think you made good use of it tonight. It's definitely. I think this is this is kind of a nice. Brisk maybe isn't the right word, but there's something. Yeah, maybe you could say that this is a brisk drink, which is a perfect pairing with tonight's brisk film, because especially if you've been watching the show as of late, we've had some long movies.
That's some long nights here.
Nights.
Been working long nights at the Scream Factory.
We've been screaming it up 2-3 weeks ago. We were screaming it up for nigh on almost 4 hours. It was insane. the movie that was Metropolis, that literally, what was that, 140 minutes, I think?
Is a titan of
2 hours, 20 minutes. It was, yeah, that was a long movie. It was a great movie, but it was a long one. And we're finally, after that and a lot of hour-and-a-half movies, which last week's movie was about an hour and a half, finally to that brisk 1 hour pace that we kind of got a lot of in the first couple seasons. We got a lot of movies that were really short, kind of got spoiled. And so the last 2-3 seasons, we've had a lot of hour-and-a-half movies, and it leads to some late nights. Which, hey, that's what we're here doing. We're serving up some late night horror over here, dusting off all these oldies to serve up to you guys on Friday nights. So that takes us into Saturday morning. Hey, we're here, we're committed. But tonight, back to that brisk Poverty Row pacing that we all know.
Not wasting any time. We're just gonna
economical. That's the name of the game.
Let's
here.
keep it moving.
That's what we've got tonight with Condemned to Live. Which, again, for the title of a vampire movie, it's not, that doesn't, you would never guess that it was a vampire movie just off the title alone.
Yeah.
Which is probably why I haven't seen this movie up to this point. I've watched like the first little bit of it, but I wasn't really paying attention. So I can't really tell you. I don't really remember anything from it. So it's like I'm watching it for the first time. But again, it does some interesting things with the vampire subgenre, which up to this point, 1935, I mean, obviously
right after the big one.
4 years on the heel of the all-time classic that is Dracula with Bela Lugosi. But I mean, again, Nosferatu, I guess, would be the first official vampire movie, and then you have some things here and there maybe could be called vampire movies, but not. And then you get Dracula, obviously, the Spanish version of Dracula. And then it gets kind of interesting. Like we think of a vampire as a very established monster with very established tropes, but
there are rules. There's specific rules to being a vampire.
There are, but like it's funny that those really didn't get developed or kind of exploited to the full extent until later. And that in the early 30s, it was, the 30s, the 40s, it really wasn't until the 50s that vampires were kind of, I mean, again, you're going to be in the shadow of Dracula always, almost, when you're doing a vampire story. So it was kind of not really explored in ways that, let's do something different with the vampire story. Let's do something different with the genre. But there are little examples throughout the decades from the 30s to the 50s where somebody tried to do something a little different. Tonight's movie is one of those examples, so we'll see. I'm excited to assess and see what they do with the story. But and again, this comes from the same director of the same director of The Vampire Bat, which we watched a few seasons ago, which was 2 years before this. And again, there wasn't actually a vampire in that. I believe there actually is a vampire in this. So just to go ahead and give you that, so you're not like, is this going to be another cop out? I don't think
it's
so.
not just a guy in a mask.
I don't think so. But the director Frank Schreier, he did a few of these horror movies, and obviously The Vampire Bat is more remembered than Condemned to Live, but it'll be interesting if, again, not sure how much, if that movie made much of an impression on you, but kind of see by the end what comparisons, how you think this stacks up to that. And again, some of the other, I guess, 30s horror films that we've had on the show. We've had mostly old Dark House films from this time, which, you know, kind of hit or miss. I believe Frank Strayer also did the Monster Walks and the Ghost Walks, which are both movies that we've seen in this show that you may or may not remember.
Some of them just get jumbled up in
they do. It's
in the pile.
It is, you know, especially when the titles sound too similar. Monster Walks, Ghost Walks, The Vampire Walks. That's what this should have been called. Instead, they went with Condemned to Live. Come on, it was right there. The Vampire Walks.
Condemned to Live is my favorite, like, emo album.
It does sound like a hardcore, like, yeah, it definitely sounds like something you're going and getting at the, you know, getting out of the CD rack. You know, pop this in the cassette player.
Yeah, I picked this up at Hot Topic.
Right. Oh my god, dude. Hot Topic. That's definitely where they would sell Condemned to Live. For sure. Well, yeah, this will be interesting. I'm excited for this one. And yes, you as you mentioned earlier, Evan, you're like the Vampire Bat. Are there any? Is this actually filmed on Universal sets?
This is a secret Universal.
Universal. This is one of those that.
Oh boy.
It's on some of the same sets as Bride of Frankenstein, apparently. So if you're a Universal Monsters fan, keep your eyes peeled. See if you can recognize some of the sets, and I think even some of the wardrobe. It's supposed to be. I mean, again, this is. We'll get into it more later, but this was kind of the deal that this studio had with Universal and other studios, was to be able to basically use all their stuff. So
we're just gonna sneak in right behind you.
We're gonna film at night while you guys are all, you know, all snug in bed.
Well, you weren't using it. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, essentially what the deal was. You're not gonna be using it at night, so we'll just use it at night. We'll pay you a little bit off the top.
Can't I just use it?
Oh, can I just have it? Well, anything else before we get into it tonight, Evan?
So if you want something different from a vampire flick, maybe instead of drinking blood, you have the vampire pee blood.
Ooh,
and you
okay.
show it.
Oh, whoa. Well, I don't know how the code would deal with that, Evan. I don't know if the Hayes office would take too kindly to peeing vampires.
It's never really addressed. Do vampires have to pee? I mean, that blood's got to go somewhere.
Ponder that for the next.
Think about it.
20 minutes, and then when we get to the break, we'll dive into that. Well, without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get into the exciting beginning of Condemned to Live right now.
Dang, this picture's invincible.
Invincible, dog. Frank R. Strayer. Yeah, this is like our third or fourth Frank Strayer film. But you wouldn't know it, but you see Karen DeWolf's story and screenplay, one of the rare examples of a female screenwriter on this show. We'll get that often. At this time, obviously, that was
DeWolf.
DeWolf. Her. Stay tuned at the break for her real name, which is absolutely insane.
Okay.
And we've seen some of these actors before. We'll talk about that at the break as well.
Always those drums. Friends, I shall go mad.
There, my dear. You must rest.
Just getting right into it. Economy, man.
Jeez.
I can't stand it. I can't stand it.
You've been so brave, my dear. You must continue to be.
If you love me, Franz, kill me. Kill me now.
Remember,
Jeez.
Martha, you have another life to think of besides your own.
Then go for help. With your knowledge of the jungle, you'll get through.
You forget, Martha. I can't leave you now. You need a doctor soon.
How much longer will it be? Why don't they attack? I'd rather they'd killed us and got it over with.
Study, Franz. The natives will never attack us here.
Why, Doctor? Why?
They're afraid.
Of us?
No, of this place. This cave is infested with bats.
Bats? Are they afraid of bats?
Vampire bats.
Do they believe in that silly superstition?
It is no superstition, my friend. It's true. The natives call them birds, and fear them mightily, as well they may. These hideous monsters swoop down upon their victims in the night. They fasten themselves to the throat and drink the blood.
I gotta hand it to him. They're covering a lot of ground.
Damn.
Not a lot of dialogue. Another land.
Yeah, I'm getting whiplash from how this story's moving around. Oh yeah, look at that set, man.
Classic.
Woo.
It's Jamba, Doctor.
Just like Frida.
And drained of blood he is, just like the other.
What manner of a monster could this be?
What?
A bat.
Here comes the good professor.
He can help us if anyone can.
Here comes Van Helsing. Igor.
Yeah, what a duo, man.
Terror again, Professor Christon.
The crossover team up.
Janva? Yes.
You found him in the cave.
Like Frida.
He is the same?
Yes. The throat torn open too. Jean Handel says the monster is a bat. A larger one than we've ever seen.
True, good doctor, true. But still, a bat. Some huge and loathsome thing.
It fastens to their throats.
It drags them to the caves. Then
A
what
bat
else
drags them
but
to
a
the
bat
cave?
that only sees
Strong
at
bat.
Big
night.
bat.
Can they be right?
Of course not. Tell them, sir. No bat could tear their throats as if with teeth and drag their bodies to the cave.
There are stranger things upon this earth than you could know of, David.
What?
As
What a
if with
vampire
teeth.
would attack
That's
like
not-
this?
As if.
You both believe that this monster is a bat?
If one could be so large,
You
then I
believe
say
bats
yes.
have teeth?
And you, sir?
It is strange. It never happens in the light.
It is not yet given to us to know whether or not this monster is a bat. But of one thing we are sure, that both these hideous things have happened after dark. Until this dreadful thing is caught, shun the dark. For no reason leave your homes when
Shun
dusk
the
has
dog.
fallen.
This is sound like
Bolt
a
your doors and
Dark
burn.
Knight line.
Give
Coming out
this
of
monster
Bane's
no
mouth.
opportunity, and you are safe. Now, go to your homes and guard yourselves with light.
Shun the dark, Batman. I'm condemned to live.
Oh, yeah, it just writes itself.
That would be for Jan.
Well, it looks like they're filming during the day here.
Jeez, look at these sets.
I know, man. That's that Universal
I mean-
backlot, dude. Incredible. They're making good use of it. I mean, they don't even show that much in Universal movies, honestly. They don't go wide very often.
Mother Molly. Oh, it's you, my child. I'm that vexed by this time of day. What with the townsfolk trooping in and out, muddy boots on my clean floors, and us liable to be murdered in our beds.
Have they found what did it?
They have not, and unless they do, there'll be another. Mark my words.
Little Frida last week. Janville last night. Oh, Mother Molly, it's horrible.
Horrible it is. What's in the basket?
Jamba isn't jamming
Roses
anymore.
for my garden, fresh lavender for your linens, and plum preserves for your table.
Jamming.
The professor's table, you mean? You'll make him a good wife, Marguerite. The professor is blessed.
Oh, I hope so. I want to be a good wife. But the professor's so good, so... Oh, Mother Molly, do you think I'll ever be like that?
The professor lives for the poor, my child. The poor in spirit as well. But these ingrates take advantage of his goodness. If I hadn't made a rule that they couldn't come before this hour, I'd have them underfoot all day.
With muddy boots?
But surely now something must be done. There's not a problem that isn't brought to him. Which cow to buy, how to make up with their sweethearts. They even ask him when to kiss their wife.
And that's what comes of being wise
Hey, Doc.
and good. You think he told himself to marry me?
I need a little advice.
That's wisdom, too. That these townsfolk and their problems fill his days. He has to write his books by candlelight. I really fear for him sometimes. He gets so tired that after you are wed, you'll make him rest.
I'll try. David says a saint needs no rest.
You're very fond of David, aren't you, child?
Why, yes, of course. Naturally, I've known him ever since we were children.
I understand. But remember, child, it's better to marry safely.
Of course. That is, I'm very proud of the honor Professor Criston has done me.
They're beginning to arrive, taking advantage of the professor's goodness, tiring him all out. Well, wipe your feet and come in. Hurry up. Don't let all the flies in. Not in the good chair. Over there, on the bench.
How she told them.
They think they're people.
Are you very busy?
When you're here, never. Come, sit down. It was nice of you to come to see me.
I brought you some flowers.
How like you?
To bring them?
You know what I mean. You're like your flowers, Marguerite.
It's a very pretty speech, Professor Criston.
When are you going to call me Paul?
I mean to, Paul, but somehow I forget. You see, you're a very important person.
No.
And
good
you're a very young one.
vampire ideas.
I'm not a child.
Paul.
My tapestry won the prize at the fair.
And pride goeth before a fall.
Paul.
Oh,
Oh.
What is it, then?
I have only just returned, Master. I wanted you to know that I'm here.
I'm sorry I was startled, Zan.
I didn't mean to frighten you, Miss Marguerite.
Will you put these flowers in water, Zan?
They're lovely.
You may have one, Zan. I brought them to Professor Kristan.
Thank you, Miss Marguerite.
Marguerite.
Oh, I'm sorry. Truly I am. But he frightens me so. He's hideous.
Beauty or ugliness
Jeez, not
is
pulling
only
punches.
of the soul, Marguerite.
I know. But after all these...
Zan has devoted his life to me, would give it for me joyfully. That isn't ugliness.
You saved his life. He feels it belongs to you.
Gratitude is beauty.
Forgive me. I'll try not to be afraid of him.
We can never be afraid of what we love. If we love our brother, how can we fear him?
I know. I'll try. I must go now. Father isn't very well.
Don't worry, dear.
The doctor told me not to worry, but somehow I can't help it. Come and see him later if you can. Your visits help him so.
I will. Goodbye, Marguerite.
Goodbye, Paul.
Just does not roll off the tongue for her, does it?
Paul.
Paul.
Can't you see, David, there isn't anything to be done.
But you don't love him, Marguerite.
Oh, but I do, David, I do. You mustn't say that. He's so good and kind and generous.
I know that. You don't have to praise Professor Kristan to me. I think he's wonderful. But that isn't love. You respect and admire him and even revere him. But that isn't enough to marry for.
I am honored the professor has chosen me, David.
Bro, you forgot
I'm
about
going to
money.
try and be
You're
worthy
overlooking the
of
obvious
a good
thing.
wife.
You'll be
You
a
know
good
what's up.
wife. You'll bake your bread and sew your seams and keep your copper polished.
Please, I better go.
Damn.
Yeesh.
David.
That's love,
This guy's
Marguerite.
getting aggressive.
Don't be frightened. Don't you see that you can't help loving me any more than I can stop loving you? Oh, don't you see we can't let this happen to us?
Oh, I mustn't listen to you, David. It's wrong and wicked. I'm betrothed to Professor Kristan.
You know you're winning her,
Anyway,
her
it's
over
too late.
when you have to
The
say
bans have
don't be
already been
frightened.
published, and Father would never retract. Besides, the honor is too great.
I know. And I have nothing to offer. And if you weren't betrothed, your father would never consent. He's hardly more than civil when we meet.
Oh, you mustn't think that, David. Father isn't well. And then this dreadful bat preys on his mind.
A bat, these superstitious fools.
What do you think it is?
I don't know.
You
But I'm
believe in
sure it's
bats.
not a bat.
I should be
It's
with Father
not
now.
a
I've
bat.
stayed far too long. Goodbye, David. Reach home before dusk.
Whoa. Look at her sashay around that bench.
The doctor said no, but I wanted to be sure you agreed with him, Professor.
Of course I do. The doctor knows his business. Oh, there, steady now. Here. It wouldn't do to drop him, you know.
I'm
No,
all
that
right.
would not do.
That's bad
It's
for the
just that I
baby.
didn't sleep all night. He was so sick.
Well, I'll help you home with him.
No, you won't, Professor. You're tired. I'll take them home. Wait here while I get my shawl and lantern.
Good evening, Professor Kristan.
Good evening, Maria.
Maria, didn't I tell you to wait outside for me?
Mother, please. May I not show Professor Kristan my school papers?
Why, of course, Maria. Here, give them to me. Oh, well, that's fine, Maria. You're making great improvement.
That is because of your help, Professor Kristan.
Hmm.
And you see, My writing looks almost like yours.
Much better than mine, my dear.
Come, I'm ready.
The doctor, he has horrible handwriting.
Yeah, it shouldn't be hard for a little kid to beat that.
You're so good, Professor.
I'm glad to be of service, my dear.
Come, Maria.
Goodbye, Professor Kriston.
Goodbye, Maria.
Don't forget to
See,
take
but
my
he's not
papers.
the
I'll do it
he's not
right
the
away.
town doctor. He's the professor. So people are just coming to him for
Everything.
The
The
I don't know what to
he
do
knows
about this.
everything.
I better go see the professor.
I better go see somebody who knows something.
The professor, or could he actually be a wizard?
Is this a wizard movie?
Well, technically his brother is definitely a wizard. So, and if you want to know what I mean by that, stay tuned for the break. Oh, I think I'm clocking some boom shadow up in the edge of the frame. Up, panned or dollied past it.
Get a time skip? Yep.
Ooh, nice.
Score sensitive.
Because it definitely is. Literally, I think every Frank Strayer movie that we've watched has used this. He's not the one editing it. I don't know why it just always keeps getting used on his movies.
Just fits. It's just the Frank Strayer.
I think this music was probably public domain back then. That's why we're hearing it so much. I mean, it's been used a lot in these 30s movies.
Uh-oh. Professor snapped. He's got that crazy hand.
Damn. Oh. Well, that's obviously not the professor. It's Zan the man.
So as I was driving over here, I drove through town and I saw it looked like an older gentleman. He was walking his dog, but he was wearing like an overcoat and a fedora.
Right.
It looked like he had just stepped out of the 1940s.
Yeah, you don't see that every day.
It was
do you?
such a fit. Yeah, because it was like raining out and it was dark. He
What's
looked
wrong,
like
my friend?
really
Katrina
just walked
Mulliner.
out of one of
She's missing from her bed. Her mother heard her scream. No, you don't think...
Oh, yes, Monster Bat. He's got Katrina. I know it. I know it.
What shall we do? Quick, to the caves. It may not be too late. To the caves.
Quick,
To the caves. And that is gonna take us to our first break.
Quick, everybody to the cave.
Quick to the caves. I mean, hey, we were at the caves, and then we were gone from the caves, now we're back at the caves. I mean, that's what you gotta love about the pacing of these Poverty Row horror movies. Blistering. That was the first third of Condemned to Live. What do we think so far, Evan?
I think it's pretty good so far. I'm loving all these huge sets.
Yeah.
it's moving quickly, but not in a way that feels like it's too quick.
Right. It's. I mean, again, when the movie only runs an hour, you know, it's kind of interesting the way that you play with your, like, because I think the vampire bat, which is the most direct kind of comparison with this, like, I saw somebody call it a sequel to that, which it's not. It's no, just
unofficial sequel
by virtue of the fact that it has the same director, I guess somebody would say.
There's Sweet
Fee and Peachy the cat. Oh, look at that. I'm gonna guess that it's an old cat with a name like Peachy. Very nice. It's hey cat. You know, hopefully the cat isn't too freaked out by the bat talk that is going on right now, because everybody's convinced this giant bat is, wreaking havoc on everybody. But as we've seen, I mean, we've already seen, looks
like the professor's got some splaining to do.
A good professor maybe isn't as good as everybody thinks he is.
Yeah, Mr. Pillar of the community.
Yeah, he's so good.
He's a saint. He's the best of us.
He just loves people. He just loves this town. These townsfolk.
Loves to kill.
God. Yeah, I mean, you saw that. Just, I do love that. This is the time where all somebody's got to do is like just contort their face.
Menace a little bit.
Yeah. I think if I could get paid to just make scary faces and stalk around, I would pay me that money. I guess that's what like haunted house actors and like haunt actors. I guess that's their whole deal.
Professional.
You're just getting
scare
paid
artist.
Yeah. So I mean, Professor's got a secret. So we'll see. I mean, he obviously doesn't. He doesn't seem like he knows what's up. He doesn't. Boy, is he in for a big surprise. I think.
Yeah, we'll see.
We will. And
it turns out he's actually a bat.
I mean, again, if he's a wizard, he could turn himself into a bat.
Yeah.
And
it's not a vampire, it's just a wizard.
He's just a wizard because the actor playing Professor Kristen is the brother of the man who played the wizard in The Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
So tonight's star is Ralph Morgan, and Ralph's brother Frank Morgan played the wizard in The Wizard of Oz. And we've actually had at least one other Ralph Morgan movie on this show when we watched The Monster Maker, which that was like season 3 of this show. I don't know. It was a long time ago. I don't know if you remember that. That was the one where the mad scientist injected his the object of his affections, injected her father with acromegaly.
Right.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And he had a gorilla which didn't even do anything. And well, the man who got injected with the acromegaly, that's Ralph Morgan. And he's interesting. He appeared in a few horror films throughout his career. He wasn't like he wasn't a big horror actor or anything, but this is one of a handful of horror movies that he did. And we've another familiar face that we've seen is the Hunchback, Zan. We saw him again, probably back in season 2 or 3 when we watched a movie called The Monster Walks, directed by Frank Strayer.
Okay.
Which I think came out 3 years before this.
Makes sense.
And I think he played a similar. That's the actor's name is Misha Auer, and I believe he played a similar character in The Monster Walks.
The assistant.
Yeah, like some kind of deformed assistant or butler or something. And it's so funny because in like right after this movie, basically, he got cast in a like comedy film, and basically for the rest of his career was known as like a comedic actor.
Okay.
But early in his career, he played like in horror roles, and in like he played what back then was called the heavy. You know, he would play like a villain or a bad guy or someone from another country. Like he played Russian characters a lot. I think he was maybe Russian or had some Russian ancestry. So it's funny because I knew him from comedy films, but then now like I've seen him in some of these. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, like
tough guy. Eh?
He was and so it's funny, you know, we've some of the movies that we've had on this show. It's like so like we've seen 80 something movies. So trying to remember back to like, you know, movie number 20 something where, you know, I could describe the plot and it would sound like 5 other movies that we've
He's like, yeah, I think I've seen that one.
Yeah. It doesn't you know, it can be a little kind of hard to keep track of, but we do our best over here. But those are our the familiar faces that we've seen so far. We'll see at least one more later. And let's see. I mean, we talked about the director already. I mean, Frank Strayer, just kind of a reliable guy. And then the screenwriter of tonight's film, we, you know, mentioned her briefly at the beginning.
Right, yeah.
Karen DeWolf.
Yeah, what is her real... So this is her professional name.
Professional name. And she would like had aspirations of being an actress and, you know, started on the stage and tried to break into movies, didn't quite get there. Her birth name was Muriel Quack.
What? No.
Muriel Quack.
That's an amazing name. Why would she change that?
Actually, she probably would have gotten hired gotten a big contract at one of the major studios with the name like Muriel Quack.
Yeah, I mean, way to stand up from the crowd.
And she would have changed her first name to Karen and been Karen Quack.
Karen Quack.
That would be even arguably better. The alliteration there kind of works. But she, and I think she married someone with the last name DeWolf. Yeah, that's a very fancy name. But she wanted to be an actress, but then moved into screenwriting and wrote, you know, or at least worked on around like 50 films from the 30s throughout the 50s. And her career was cut short by the blacklist in the 50s. She was blacklisted for, you know, alleged communist ties, and did a little bit of television, but didn't really write any other movies. But I mean, she worked mostly in, you know, romance films, romantic comedies, worked at Universal, worked with tonight's director, Frank Strayer, on he did a bunch of movies later based on the comic strip Blondie.
Okay. Yeah.
He did between 1938 and 1943, he did 14 Blondie movies. So in a span of 5 years.
Okay.
And she wrote like a handful, like 3 or 4 of them. Okay. She like was involved in writing. And yeah, it's so funny. Frank Strayer has these like handful of like horror and mystery films, and then like later on it's just Blondie. Blondie goes to
my Blondie
wherever.
phase.
Yeah, I mean he did. I mean it was 14 movies over 5 years. I mean obviously he knew how to work fast and work cheap. I mean, again, that's kind of the thing here. And he kind of knew how to work with these Universal sets and, you know, I mean, kind of use them to good. He could move the camera a little more and not be so wide all the time, but I mean, hey, well, we love being on these Universal sets, right?
They're the real star.
They really are. I mean, it is kind of nerdy to be like, oh, the sets, I love the set. But it is like it's just cool to see them outside of like the context of a Universal horror movie. Like, oh, here's something different, but it's using the same thing. There's an uncanniness to like if you felt like you found something that shouldn't exist, right? But it's weird,
like
you know.
They snuck in here.
But the studios, they're the studio Invincible. Well, it's kind of like two studios. Like there's Invincible and Chesterfield, and they both like kind of work together to get deals at like Universal and other studios to basically use their sound stages because they didn't own any of their own production facilities. They just made deals with the studios to use theirs.
They trade them a bunch of cigarettes.
Yeah, I mean, man, you just line their pockets with Chesterfields. They'll do whatever you want. You got to think how fast they were going through cigarettes back. The producer Maury M. Cohen, he was like, I guess the head of Chesterfield. And I think, or maybe he was that's the thing. The Chesterfield and Invincible were separate. They had separate heads, but they worked together on a lot of films. And then they, you know, got folded into Republic, I think the same year that this film came out, which the serial that we watched last, Whispering Shadow by Mascot was another one of those companies that got folded into Republic. They took like 5 Poverty Row companies and folded them into
mashed them all together.
One company called Republic. Massive. It was still a Poverty Row company. It was just a bigger Poverty Row company. I mean, hey, that's the Hollywood business. But yeah. So during this break, we're gonna get 2 trailers from some other Ralph Morgan horror movies. Like we said earlier, the star of tonight's film, Ralph Morgan did a handful of horror movies in his career. And so we've got a pair of films he did for Universal in the 40s. He did some Universal horror films. The first is for a movie called Night Monster from 1942, which also has Bela Lugosi. Can't say it stars Bela Lugosi. It has Lionel Hampton. It includes
Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, it's one of those Lugosi Butler movies. So, you know, he's sinister, but he's not your main man. So it's annoying because they have a character that's like a mystic. It's like, why not hire Lugosi to play the mystic?
Yeah,
and
let him do that.
Universal this is just something that happened that they did to Lugosi. You know, he goes over to Monogram and he gets to play the lead, and then he comes over to Universal and they make him play Butler and he's like 4th build, and it's where sometimes he's top build and he's like clearly a supporting character, and it's just kind of frustrating. And then the second trailer is for a mystery film that Ralph Morgan is in with Lon Chaney Jr., who's definitely the star. And that's from 1944, entitled Weird Woman. And it's a voodoo. It's a mystery. It was a part of a series of films called the Inner Sanctum Mysteries. But this one's got like a supernatural element.
Weird.
Yeah, weird it is. But we're going to get these 2 Ralph Morgan trailers. And then when we come back, we'll get into the exciting middle of Condemned to Live. So stick around. We'll be right back.
There's a lot of funny business going on out here that I think you ought to look into before it's too late. What? Well, this is Millie out at... I think you know who killed those doctors. You've got to tell us in order to prevent other deaths.
I can't. I can't do that.
Look. Blood.
This is the inner sanctum.
Thick stones, jungle gods.
You don't know what you're doing!
I do!
Norman, no!
Woman or witch, temptress or killer, weaving a death curse with the black magic of an ancient cult. Starring Lon Chaney, Anne Gwynn, Evelyn Ankers, with Lois Collier, Ralph Morgan, Elizabeth Risdon, Elizabeth Russell.
This house is full of something evil.
Evil? Yes, it's you.
Don't.
Why are you terrorizing my wife?
I don't even care anymore what people are saying, laughing at me.
Oh, stop it. I never asked for such devotion from you, and I don't want it.
Answer. Hello?
And we are back. So those were trailers for a couple Universal horror movies that Ralph Morgan did in the 40s. And it's funny, Universal, their 40s horror movies do not really make use of the sets the way that their 30s horror movies do, of the backlot, I should say. I don't know what I mean, they would, you'd see it every now and again, but there's just something about the 30s horror films and these independent films that kind of make use of the sets in weird ways.
They're too busy with their weird woman.
I mean, seriously.
Have you seen how weird this woman is?
We can't spend money on the sets. This woman's so weird. We gotta pay just to see how weird she is.
We gotta pay to make this woman even weirder.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's essentially what they were doing in the 40s. They were just paying to make as weird monsters as their makeup guy could create. That's how you got the Wolfman and all these great characters. And you know, you couldn't spend money on the sets because you're spending too much money on makeup. And plus, if you spend all the money on the sets, Lon Chaney's just gonna knock them all down, and he's just gonna barging through there. It's just, you know, no point.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
that's why.
Just Lon was just way too destructive. It's true. But yeah, that's the interesting thing about this, like how these indie studios got access to these sets is like, there are uncredited producers on tonight's film. These brothers, I can't remember one of the brothers' names. I don't remember, but the other one, Max Alexander.
And he was the security guard at the set. They slipped him a 5.
That's essentially it. No, I mean, no. Basically, this he does seem to kind of be the middleman between these indie studios and Universal, because was actually the nephew, and I believe maybe even the favorite nephew of Universal studio head Carl Laemmle, who everybody at the studio called Uncle Carl, because he did hire so many of his own family members to work at his studio. Like his son, Carl Laemmle Jr., is the whole reason that the monster movies got made in the 30s. You wouldn't have Dracula and Frankenstein and everything else if it wasn't for Carl Laemmle Jr. being like, all right, we're going to make these movies. And his dad's like, I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think we should be making horror movies. But okay, you're my son. You do whatever you want. Nepotism was kind of a big thing at the studio.
It worked out.
Well, that's again this Max Alexander. You know, he kind of had the keys to the kingdom, and so it's weird that he's an uncredited producer. Other interesting fact about him: he was married to Shirley Ulmer. Who, that name may not sound familiar, but we saw a couple films from Edgar G. Ulmer, Bluebeard, and maybe we've only just seen one, But oh well, you and I watched The Black Cat. That was the movie, the only studio movie that he really did, because he was having an affair with Shirley Ulmer, who was married to Max Alexander. And so that was why he got like basically blacklisted into working in Poverty Row Studios for the rest of his career, was because he had an affair with the studio head's favorite nephew's wife. Yeah. So kind of funny how again, the power behind the camera. Seriously in this case. So yeah, always some weird connections with our movies, actors and the people. Oh, last one before we get back into the movie. The
one more.
So one more. The triangle, the love triangle that we have going on right now with the professor and the young woman, and then the aggressive young man, who's, I believe his name is David, played by an actor, Russell Gleason, who his family was actually really close with Boris Karloff. And his wife wrote a biography on Boris Karloff. And he was godfather to Boris Karloff's daughter, Sarah. So, yeah, Russell Gleason. So kind of a weird Karloff connection in tonight's film that I was surprised to stumble. Wasn't expecting any kind of Karloff facts, but there you go. Universal, Karloff, it all connects.
He's just hanging out. He's around.
He probably was. I mean, again, this is
crashing through this.
Well, yeah, Karloff wasn't crashing as much as, he was just laying around drinking tea and, he wasn't doing a lot of crashing.
Oh,
yeah, he was sitting back and
getting my monsters mixed up.
Yeah, you got to think Lon Chaney Jr. chugging a bottle of whatever spirits in the dressing room, then crashing through everything, right? You got to keep track of these guys and their vices, man. All right. Well, anything before we get in? So just a little recap. Basically, this beloved professor is realizing that he may have a little more to do with these mysterious murders in his village than he would like to believe.
Is it possible that the professor recently had a hand transplant?
And now he has he got a criminal's hand.
Yeah, he got the killer's hand.
Could be.
Got that crazy hand.
Yeah, maybe he did. Well, you know what it's got to be? It's got to be a vampire's hand instead of a crazy killer.
Now, there you go.
Now that's how it works.
It's an immortal hand. Mm-hmm. It's a vampire hand.
It's a vampire hand, and so what it does is it sprouts fangs on the two finger, and then you just like a snake. Cuts. But I guess the hiss works for a vampire too.
That's pretty good.
There you go.
You gotta write it.
I don't know if I'm trying to write if I'm really trying to emulate a 30s Poverty Row horror film, then that'll be my plot. Well, on that note, we're gonna go ahead and get into the exciting middle of Condemned to Live right now. Gotta love your angry mob, man.
How many of those guys do you think are thinking, man, I wish I brought a torch?
Everyone that doesn't. I'd get real FOMO.
Look. Down there. Katrina.
Another victim of the monster.
Which of us will be next?
Surely there's a curse upon us all. You superstitious fools with your talk of monsters and bats. There is no bat large enough to carry a human body to the caves. What else then, David? A man. He could even be one of us. Someone we might least suspect. No! It's a bat. I know it. Oh, you know it. Perhaps you've seen it then. Have you?
No, never. But the master says it is a bat. A monster.
A monster. Yes, a human monster.
Master, Davy there thinks the monster is a human. And it may be one of us. Tell him that it isn't true.
Why, David, Professor Criston is right. Come, Zan, let us go home.
Neighbors, let us not submit like cattle to these murders. Instead of running home as soon as the sun is down, let us remain on guard throughout the night, that we may catch this killer and destroy him. Who will volunteer to watch with me?
Not I, David. I can guard my family better at home.
Yes, I'll remain indoors with lights.
You're right. Let us go to our homes.
Let's all go home.
Yeah, that's talk about mobilization. Mobilize everybody to go home.
So many candles, good woman.
With a monster abroad, sir, light is our only protection.
A monster, you say?
I do. A monster bat which swoops down upon its prey in the dark and leaves great gaping holes in their throats.
Come closer.
I'll stay here.
Could you stay,
Thank you very
say,
much.
over there just as well?
She does need that little extra sass. She's one step
That's
away.
better. Now, what is this old wife's tale?
No tale it is, sir, but the truth. Within a fortnight, 3 of our townsfolk have fallen a prey to this very thing.
And so, the light?
It never happens in the light.
I see.
Anders! Paul! My dear friend.
You haven't changed a bit.
Nor you, after all these years. Oh, you come in troublous times, my friend.
So this good woman has been telling me.
Oh, this is my housekeeper, Mother Molly. And this is Dr. Bizet, Mother Molly, my foster father and my very best friend.
Then I leave you in good company while I prepare a room for Dr. Bizet.
Well, here, sit down and let us talk. What brings you here?
You wrote of your betrothal? Of course I came.
Well, I'm glad you've come. I need you, Anders.
So?
I've had a curious malady of late.
Which is?
I don't know. Strange headaches, followed by vagueness and exhaustion. Huh. Well, enough of my small woes when we are besieged by tragedies.
These murders?
All unaccounted for. I'm not jesting when I tell you that the villagers fear a monstrous bat.
The old superstition, a vampire bat.
Oh, well,
What's going on with their eyebrows?
There's time enough for that.
See that?
No.
So much
Yeah.
lighting.
Allow me.
They had these like dark. They almost looked like painted on the line of their.
To our reunion. You couldn't help but love her, Anders. Her beauty of face is a true reflection of her soul.
Then that must be Marguerite.
Uh-oh.
Surely no one was ever more beautiful.
It is.
Professor Criston.
My dear.
Great, just who I wanted to see.
You're
This is
betrothed.
Dr. Bizet, Marguerite, my foster father and my good friend. Oh, and this is David, Marguerite's childhood schoolmate.
And nothing
Paul
else.
has told me the truth about you, my child.
That's it.
I confess I doubted him until I saw you.
My father will be glad to see you both.
You'll have some refreshments, of course.
Marguerite, I must go.
David, after your long walk, he carried my heavy basket all the way. And besides, you said you had the whole afternoon.
I did. Till now.
It's well to reach
I
your
just
home
remembered.
before
I
dusk.
have something.
I do not fear a bat, sir.
Indeed. Then what do you think this monster is?
A fiend. Playing upon the village superstitions.
Fiend.
Perhaps you're nearer right.
Good day. Good day, Professor. Sir.
Marguerite, your father.
He's feeling more himself today. Do you think it could be those dreadful tragedies that are preying on his mind?
Perhaps. I only wish I could keep you from worrying about him.
Professor Clipstone is here, Father. And this is his friend, Dr. Bizet.
I am honored, Doctor.
His friend? He's been introducing him as his foster father. And, well, I guess, and his best friend.
Some cordial, John.
Foster father seems like you lead with that.
Yes, ma'am. Marguerite's cordial is the best in the village.
You are blessed in having such a daughter, sir. I hear you also raise the most perfect roses, Miss Marguerite.
Oh, I assure you it's quite by accident, Dr. Bizet. I tend them daily, and as for the rest, they just grow.
But surely I may see these marvelous accidents?
Of course. I'll show you my garden if you wish.
I should be grateful.
Will you join us?
Later, my dear. Marguerite is worried about you.
I know. The doctors told me I haven't long to live.
Shit.
The knowledge makes me restless.
And Marguerite?
Marguerite must not know.
And of course you love Paul deeply.
Oh, of course. That is, I worship Professor Christon. Paul, I mean. He's such a great, good, wonderful man. Oh, I will make him a good wife, Dr. Bizet. And I'll try so hard to live up to him.
I don't think you'll have to try, my child. Like these flowers of yours, you can't help but reflect goodness and beauty.
Oh, but I do have to...
That in itself is goodness. Thank you.
See the wind? The bats abroad tonight.
He won't need his huge wings in all this blow.
What fiend has an ague each time a candle flickers?
I? You're the lying tongue in you, Anna. I'm not afraid.
'Tis well to be afraid when the devil hath spewed such a loathsome creature as this upon us.
But I'm not afraid, I tell you. You're right, old woman. 'Tis ungodly not to be afraid. There, the mistress wants you in her room. Oh.
Then you think that Marguerite doesn't love me?
Nothing of the sort. The child loves you devotedly. She worships you. You're a kind of god to her, to be lived up to be worthy of. I suggested that she is not in love with you. The difference is vast.
But if you're right, why hasn't she told me?
Do you think her capable of hurting anyone? Above all, her idol? Besides, it's just possible the child doesn't know the difference. Understand me, Paul. I may be entirely wrong. I simply wanted you to be alert to a fact you may not have realized.
Yeah, you didn't realize your age difference with this girl?
Talk to the child. She's incapable of dissimulation. You'll know.
You'll know, adopted professor son.
Uh-oh. headache coming.
That will do, Anna.
But, mistress...
That will do. Oh, forgive me, Anna. I'm sorry. I'm upset and restless. Oh, I feel as if something dreadful were going to happen.
There, mistress. We are all bolted in with candles burned. What can happen?
I know. I guess I'm silly. But I'm so worried about my father.
Not going out, Professor Christon?
To Marguerite's, Mother Molly. Do you think I'll be safe with her?
All her goodness couldn't keep that away. But you need light.
A full moon.
But you walk through the wood.
Ah, true. I'll take a lantern.
Must you go tonight?
Yes, Mother Molly. I'll keep the house well lit.
The devil himself couldn't keep me from doing that.
Man, what a canopy.
Windy tonight.
What?
Whoa.
Oh, what?
Oh.
You get caught up on something?
Tripped on a log.
Was he gonna start drinking his own blood?
The professor is retired, Mother Molly.
I wish he had. I'm plagued at the thought of him being out in this wild night.
Out, you say?
I do. To Marguerite's, he said.
Marguerite's?
You fear for the professor?
I do. Quick, a lantern.
Yes.
It looks very modern for the rest of the setting. I don't know. I don't know what it is about this bedroom. It's suspicious. Oh.
Don't be frightened. It's just the wind.
Anna, it's Father. Hurry, let him in.
Professor Christon! I thought it was...
Got her.
Who's screaming? What happened? Miss Marguerite!
I'm here.
These good for nothing servants.
We don't know. Look!
We heard a scream, but we thought we'd play another hand first.
Anna, the bat.
bring some water.
Yes.
Back through the windy woods.
There, Master. There. Now lean on me. Is he hurt? No. What happened? He swooned, Master.
You were with him?
I saw him leave. I feared for him. I followed.
And then?
The lantern went out. He was unconscious. I have only now succeeded in restoring him.
Yes, I remember. The lantern went out. It was dark.
Dark, you say?
Yes. Very dark. I can't remember anymore.
You swooned, Master.
We are near Marguerite's house. Can you walk?
Then come quickly.
What happened?
Taking him
We
right
heard
back
a
to the
scream,
scene
sir,
of
and
the
found her
crime.
like this.
And Marguerite? She's unhurt, sir. She swooned when she saw this.
Say swoon.
Yeah,
again.
I don't think that was the appropriate use of the word swoon.
What?
Who could have done this?
Anna.
This was like the other victims?
But, Doctor, do you really believe it could have been a bat?
What else?
I saw a figure gliding away in the dark.
And David was right.
Man bat.
The monster is a man.
The monster is a man.
Actually, it was a man bat, so really we're both right.
And last night was the fourth of these hideous tragedies. I beg you, my friends, for my sake, for the sake of those who love you, yes, even for the sake of this piteous, evil-ridden fiend, guard yourselves constantly. Burn every candle, every lamp you possess. Through every
Does he have
minute
some
the
kind of
dark.
like
Stand
stake in
on
the
guard.
candle company? Is that what all this is about?
Don't
This
move
is all
outside
big
your home.
wax.
And above
Trying
all,
to keep everybody frightened.
don't for an instant be without a light.
Thomas Edison just came to town.
Now, go to your homes and pray.
To who?
How's Margaret? The shot did her no good. I was afraid to bring her.
And you?
Oh, all right.
Then hurry home to Marguerite and stay with her.
Every instant, the professor means. Don't leave her alone with anyone. Anyone at all. Do you understand? I have your promise?
I shan't leave her.
With no one at all.
I understand, Dr. Bazet.
Good.
Do you?
What's the matter? What is it?
I saw him. The fiend, he's there in the shadow. He's dancing and crooked and evil. Evil.
After him then.
Uh-oh.
There's your fiend, Professor Kristan Zan. Yeah, your scream scared him
Found
away.
him.
Professor Kristan
You have
Zan.
nothing to fear from Zan. To your homes, my friends. Come, my son.
It's not a monster, it's just Zan.
Perhaps the woman wasn't so wrong. 3 killings there were near the professor's house. And Zan was at Marguerite's last night.
What good can there be in a hunchback?
But if he weren't good, the professor wouldn't have him. How do you know? Oh, the professor's so good himself, he wouldn't believe it anyway. He was near every crime.
Laying it on a little thick.
And that is gonna take us to our second break. Yeah, I mean, you gotta be
can't
reminded
believe how
every 3 minutes
good
how
this
good
professor is.
this guy is. I mean, everybody just loves him. I mean,
There's no way he could be doing anything wrong.
What? The professor? He wouldn't associate with a bad person? What?
No.
Have a bad person working for him? No. Our professor? Not likely. Well, that's exciting middle. What are we thinking so far, Evan?
Well, it's it's heated up here in the last little bit. It was we had kind of a lull in the second act.
We
for
did
a bit.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it started really
fast.
Really, the pacing was just breakneck, and then got into the middle, and things were slowing down. And finally, within with the doctor's foster father showing up in town, and the love triangles are always with a horror movie. They're tedious because you want horror. You're here for the horror. And
I'm here for the vampire.
I'm not here to watch the ne'er-do-well young guy and the rich old guy duke it out for
Marguerite.
the young Marguerite, who every old geezer around is calling her the girl. It's like she's a woman, but technically the professor, obviously he knows he should know, he should know she's way out of his league, but
he should know that she's too good.
She is too good. Well, so basically we haven't gotten too much into any vampire stuff in the movie.
Yeah, I've been waiting for them to be a little more explicit about that.
I think that we're gonna get more of that in the third act.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that
Thanks.
I think that we're finally gonna get that going again. Because it started out promising with that cave scene, and then we've had the murders in the village, and we've seen the professor going on these episodes, whatever you want to call
He's got the
them.
crazy hands.
He's got the crazy hands, which not to spoil anything, but the movie Night Monster that Ralph Morgan is in, he's the Night Monster, and he does this like the same exact I don't know. I didn't know that he did that in this movie. So when I saw that, I was kind of like, wait, what movie am I watching right now? But Night Monster, it's a little more ridiculous, but actually kind of scary because they play with the sound design and the atmosphere and fog. Really, it's a Universal horror movie, so they do well. But we haven't gotten a lot of vampire stuff, so I think we're set to get that in the third act. But again, vampire movies at this time weren't really, you had Dracula 4 years before this, obviously kind of set the tone. So you get, the vampire bat, which we saw a few seasons ago, technically, again, another spoiler alert, technically not really a vampire movie.
They make you think it's going to be one.
They really do, and they sell it, but then it's actually a mad scientist movie, which, hey, I'm all for it. But again, some people probably a little not happy with the cop-out. But
it's not called the scientist bat.
It's not right, or the scientist walks, or whatever you want to call it. So they kind of, maybe this is the Frank Strader's making up for it with this one, right? But you really didn't have you had one of the trailers we saw in our pre-roll tonight, Mark of the Vampire. Guess what? It's also like the vampire bat. Another spoiler. This is our spoiler alert portion of the show, because Mark of the Vampire, it's basically like basically the reveal's kind of like the vampire bat.
Not really a vampire.
It's not real. Yeah, they do everything to, and I'll go ahead and tell you just to really spoil it. These, Lugosi is in it as this vampire. He's stalking around the whole time, and then you find out he's just an actor that's been hired as part of this murder sting. It was all set up. This whole vampire like plot of the whole movie was all a sting to trap this one guy, get him to confess to a murder.
It was all just the cops.
I mean, that's basically it. Like, you figure out the whole time that the vampire hunter is actually this inspector, and that he's, this is all his ruse to hypnotize the killer into reenacting the crime to the point of hiring a lookalike of the victim and like,
wait a second, didn't I already kill you?
Literally scaring the guy's daughter, like, and then making her like act like the man is really her father, so they can. It's very convoluted. It's the same director as Dracula too. That's the thing that like atmospherically, it's great. Like, it's even arguably better than Dracula. And it's from MGM, so it was probably like a good deal more money. Like, they gave him a bigger budget than Universal probably gave him, and then it just all ends up being a cop out. That's one where literally they have like a woman vampire flying through the air with giant wings, right? That's MGM money right there. You're not doing that on an Invincible picture. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna get that tonight.
No, I don't think so. We got a little bit of bad action early on. Hopefully we'll get more bad action at the end. We'll see. But outside of that, I mean, for the 30s, that was pretty much it. In the 40s, the other 30s like vampire movie would be Dracula's Daughter. So you get a Dracula sequel. That's how it is in the 40s. You get Son of Dracula, House of Dracula. You're not getting too many like vampire movies that are actually trying to do something different besides Dracula. There's Return of the Vampire with Lugosi, and it kind of updates it to like a World War II setting. So that's cool.
It's something, yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
But it's still, they're not really playing with the mythos very much. And so it isn't until 1957 that you actually start to get, just out of nowhere, there's this like flux of like 5 different vampire movies across different countries. But in 1957, there was like a whole bunch, honestly. So that's the first trailer we're gonna see in this break is for a 1957 movie called The Vampire. I think that one mixes in some science and some weird stuff. And then the second trailer is for the movie that kind of really, I think, jump started the vampire subgenre into all the exploration of tropes and everything that got us to where we are today. And that's Horror of Dracula from 1958 from Hammer Studios, who resurrected the gothic horror style of Universal, but with blood and sex and gore, like all these things that the Universal movies didn't have. Hammer Horror brought to Frankenstein and Dracula, and they did a whole bunch of vampire movies, and there were tons of copycats, and you get a whole bunch of crazy vampire movies after Horror of Dracula, for sure. So those are the trailers we're gonna get: The Vampire and Horror of Dracula. And then when we come back, we'll get into the exciting conclusion of Condemned to Live. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Half human, half wild animal, destroying beautiful women, out to satisfy its unholy lust for blood. Attacks, vanishes, leaving only the mark of the most terrifying human beast of prey.
I've got men covering the whole town. If he sticks to his pattern, someone will die tonight.
The satanic forces of hell break loose as the vampire killer defies all.
This is the story of Dracula, a creature who destroys all whom he touches. Dracula the terrifying, the feared, who sleeps in the tombs of the dead by day and arises at night to inflict his terror upon the innocent and the unsuspecting.
Oh, you must help me. You must. You're my only hope. You must.
I'll help you. I promise.
Please try and understand. This is not Lucy, the sister you loved. It's only a shell, possessed and corrupted by the evil of Dracula.
How do you destroy a fiend who has so far proven himself indestructible? Those who come to end his reign of terror stay to become his victims.
Castle Dracula is somewhere here in Klausenberg. Will you tell me how I get there?
You ordered a meal, sir. As an innkeeper, it's my duty to serve you. When you've eaten, I ask you to go and leave us in peace.
This is the doctor who dares to challenge the vampire Dracula. This is the anguished man who fears for the lives of his beloved, the girl who is his sister, and the one that is his wife. Dracula, the bedeviled master of all that is evil.
And we are back. So that was the trailers for The Vampire and Dracula, aka Horror of Dracula. And I mean, again, between 1931 when Dracula came out and that movie, that version of Dracula, you maybe had like 15 vampire movies between then, and half of them were Dracula movies. So you didn't get too many times where people were like, "Oh yeah, let's do a legitimate take on a vampire story." And it didn't really become a thing until 60s, 70s, and then up to now. Obviously, it's been run through the mud.
Yeah, there's been a bazillion vampire films.
Again, yeah, as ubiquitous as it, and it, I should have brought that over here, Evan. Now that you brought it up, that I have this giant vampire book.
Here, let me get.
Yeah, Evan, go get. So I got this book when I was like 8 years old at like a mall bookstore, and you know me, as I was a little kid that loved monster stuff, I had to have this book, and it's. So this is my big old vampire book. I believe that's Kiefer Sutherland's beautiful mug right there. And
the giant vampire
it is look at this, it's thick. And I'll hand this back over to you, Evan, because I want you to flip through the pages and look on the edges. You'll get a nice little treat there.
It says the Encyclopedia of the Undead.
It really is.
Completely.
I should have. What does it say?
Completely.
Boom. Revamped. Yes. And it probably, I should have looked to see if it had an entry on Condemned to Live. But it doesn't. Again, this movie is not as well known. Again, especially when you consider there are only a handful of vampire movies for like
Duckula?
Duckula? Was that what you said? Duckula?
That's what I thought I just saw.
You probably did. It has everything in there.
Every single, even the vampire duck.
Yeah. Oh, they cover it all. Do you notice? Do you see the little bat on the side of
Oh
the
my god!
page?
Yeah, I just noticed that.
It's like a little flip book,
Yeah.
and there's a little bat that like flies up and down on the page.
Yeah, more books need that. I wish. I wonder if I could show the camera that.
Yeah, you might be
Kinda
able to.
hard, but
Yeah, it's. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, you. Oh, yeah. You can kind of see that. See, and he flies around. Look, yeah. Look at him go. Wow, he's coming right at me. Yeah.
just need the intro to Scooby Doo to start playing.
You do, yeah. In the bat sound, I already hear it. I can hear it right now. Yeah, but that book, that's kind of like, you know, I mean, that book literally everything about vampires and anything even remotely vampire adjacent. And it's funny. I believe in that book it says that vampires are like the most adapted monster, which is crazy to me because it wasn't until the day that I realized, oh, okay, so for like the first like almost 30 years of sound horror films, like you only got a handful of vampire movies. Like I would have really thought that there were more, but it just outside of Dracula just wasn't really a desire to really
Nobody thought they could top that.
Oh, I mean, hey,
That's
they
the
said
vampire
Bram.
story.
Who's gonna beat Bram? I mean,
Nobody beats Bram.
nobody beats Bram. And you know that was his catchphrase too. You know he was.
Why wasn't there nobody making oh god, what is it, Varney the vampire?
Oh yeah, why didn't we get a Varney the Vampire movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been you've really actually when you bring it up, it's kind of surprising because I mean, like MGM bought Dracula's Guest, which was it was like some chapters from Dracula that Bram Stoker like took out or something that were part of Jonathan Harker's like journal, and they bought that and were going to just adapt that.
Just that.
Yeah, and then Universal ended up buying. MGM only bought that because they knew that Universal would pay them money to get it. They weren't even planning on making the movie. They just like, we'll just get them to pay more from us for it because we know they want it.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta love the shrewd. So I would have thought that somebody would have hopped on a Varney, and that's public domain, especially. What are you gonna do? Yeah, I mean, we're about to get into the exciting conclusion of Condemned to Live, and again, I hope we'll get more vampire lore, broken into here before it's too late. What do you think, Evan? Any predictions or expectations before we get into the conclusion here?
Do any of these characters carry around a mirror?
Yeah,
Wait a second.
Somebody just pulls out like a giant 6-foot mirror out of
right. There's the two guys like carrying it across the street.
Right. We got the biggest mirror in town. We're gonna everybody line up.
Coming through. Don't mind us.
We're gonna really.
They walk by the mob, and the one guy is just obviously.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
Somebody's missing. I mean, they said they know it's one of them. They don't know who.
It could be any of us.
Surely it's not the goodest man in town. I think that was the word that somebody used. I think she said his betrothed called him the greatest, goodest, something something. I'm like, how can you follow up great with good? Like, you can't call something great and then it's good. With
He's the goodest, greatest.
it's either one or the other. Come on, what are we doing here?
Goodness gracious.
Seriously. On that note, we're gonna go ahead and get into the exciting conclusion of Condemned to Live right now. Oh, I forgot because of the thing.
Let's just watch it again.
We'll just, all right, we're just start it back from the top. No, don't worry. I'll just do a little bit of this. And
a little bit of movie magic.
A little bit of movie magic will get this show back on the road before you can say automatopoeia. I don't know. I don't know whatever you want to say. I can't focus on too many things at once.
Garrett's queue is full at the moment.
It's really, like the old sound, like the internet loading used to make, like the dial up, like, that's what's going on in like my head right now as I'm trying to figure this out. Let's see.
I think that guy that I saw earlier walking his dog was probably a vampire.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty safe bet. Anybody that's in this day and age.
Well, he was walking around in the rain, but I don't think he was getting wet because he had that coat on.
No, no way. No way. Okay, there it is. He wasn't worried about getting wet. He was definitely just trying to hide the fact that, inside the coat his hands like this. And he's getting all,
How do you feel about the so there's a lot of rules with vampires.
Right.
What do you think about the rain? Like in some vampire stories, rain hurts vampires.
See, like holy water makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Right? But rain just doesn't.
I guess because is it because it's running water? Like they can't cross running water. So
see, I guess, but I never really. That's the running water. Trope is not necessarily one that I have come across too often. But is that like
that's another one that like
is in Dracula?
I don't really remember, but it's in some stories like they've got a thing with water.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess Dracula was traveling by boat.
Yeah, that's true. He was going up the river.
Have too much. Yeah, I don't know how much of an obstacle water was for Dracula. All right, there we go. So let's freaking get this fixed up. Skitty bop. Here we go.
Don't you see? I don't know where I was. In a swoon, yes. But it's incredibly odd that I was unconscious during
Is he swoon again? In a swoon?
He was swooning. That's his alibi.
What are they?
I couldn't have done it. I was in a swoon.
Last night,
I'm gonna kill you, driving swooner.
Unconscious, master.
Yes, but what did I do?
Sounds dangerous.
You laid it on the ground while I tried to revive you. From the moment I swooned? You swear?
I do, master.
Moment I swoon, you swear?
Book?
I swear, master.
Until this malady is past, Anders, I cannot marry Marguerite.
You're right, Paul. You must tell her. Tonight, while your mind is made up.
No, master, don't go.
Why not?
The fiend, he may be abroad.
Your master doesn't fear the fiend. Go, my friend. Release the girl.
The fiend fears the professor. He's so good.
He's just too good.
The light must not go out.
Trip over any logs, idiot.
Why do you follow him?
I fear for him. The fiend.
You lied. You lied upon that book. You were not with him every moment in the wood. The truth, man. You must tell me the truth.
I have sworn.
I beg you, David, not to do this.
They must know. Loving me, you cannot wed the professor.
I haven't said so.
There's no need. We know.
My father must return in a moment. Oh, please, David, wait a little while.
Marguerite, you're in danger. I know it. I can feel it. My place is by your side to watch over you, protect you. Oh, Marguerite, I'm afraid to leave you alone.
My father. Oh, David, I beg you, if you love me, go.
All right.
Whatever.
Fine. Oh.
Thank you, my child. You seem worried, Marguerite. What is it?
Oh, Father.
Oh, that's all right.
You lie, I say, all lies. Without his light, you couldn't find him in the woods. You were not together.
My master, I must be with him.
Why? Tell me why. The truth, man. Now's the time to tell it. I must know. I want to help you, fool. But before I can, I must know.
My master, please.
What do you fear for him?
Who's this actor on the left?
If you are the monster, your master is safe from you.
See.
If he is the fiend, he can fear nothing
Pedro
from
de
himself.
Cordoba.
Then
He's in a couple other horror movies.
I'm almost picking up a little bit of a vibe from him. Wait,
you knew.
I think I read a review that
Poor
said the same thing.
Friend.
Not forsaken, sir.
True. Not forsaken. When did you first know?
Frida. She was passing near the house. I heard her scream. Then I saw my master.
Look at his eyebrow. There's like a dark spot on it.
I myself carried her body to the caves. Then I brought him here. He never knew he'd risen from his bed.
And then?
After that, I followed every move. But it was always my mischance to be too late.
What about the young woman, Katrina?
The same. Again, I was too late. You can cure him, Dr. Bizet. Take him away. Tonight. New places, new faces, rest in your good care. No one here will ever know.
We'll decide that when he returns.
We shouldn't have let him go.
I feared that Paul might be the fiend. The boy was marked at birth. But he had to release Marguerite from her promise.
But Miss Marguerite, do you not fear for her?
Her father has given me his oath. He would not leave her.
Still, I fear. We should be with my master.
Yes, yes, come.
Oh shit. The mob's ready to go again.
You may be delayed. I'll go on.
Got the gang together. I just love when you see a community come together.
What is it, my friend?
Everybody on the same page.
We must
We really got the whole neighborhood
He is
out.
not here. He is at Marguerite's house.
And Jean?
There, too.
Well, time to burn down the windmill.
Yeah, I don't know whether or not, like, you know, like, making more hubbub. They're very quiet mob.
Yeah,
I'm not
very
surprised.
polite mob.
Father,
Like in
I wish you'd tell me what's
Frankenstein, they're all like,
worrying
ah,
you."
ah, the whole time.
Perhaps I should. I'll go. Oh, Paul.
Good evening, sir.
Come in.
Thank you. Oh, Marguerite.
Professor Christon.
Dear child.
You're just in time. Father was going to tell me something.
Oh, let that go now. You have happier things to think about.
You're not leaving us.
Of course.
I'd rather you stayed. Remember your oath to Anders.
Why, that couldn't include you.
Wow.
Perhaps it's as well. We are well lighted. And what I have to say is only for you. Please. Marguerite, lately a strange malady has possessed me. Something I can't explain, nor has my good friend as yet uncovered it. What have you done? Rewrite it instantly.
But I have no tapers. What is it? What's wrong? I only thought to spare your eyes.
Forgive me.
Watch those hands.
I'm not quite myself. It was kind of you to blow it out.
Your head aches?
Unbearably at times. It's the malady of which I spoke. The pain becomes so great. Sometimes I swoon and am unconscious for a while.
I'm sorry, Professor. Paul. But after we're married, I'll take such good care of you that these spells will disappear.
Working himself
That's
too
what
hard.
I came to say, my dear. There'll be no marriage till this malady is cured.
But why?
I couldn't burden you with so much care. I love you too well, Marguerite.
That's no care. I'd be grateful for the chance to serve you, even in so small a thing.
Serve me. Of course you would, my child. But you see, I can't accept. I release you from your promise.
Until you're well?
Until I'm well.
I pray it won't be long.
Well done.
Whatever happens, will you remember this? I love you, Marguerite.
Stop! You foolish child, you don't know what to do.
But it was torturing your eyes.
I'll get tapers. All the lights must be lit.
If you fear a fiend, a candle still burns, and the moon makes the room bright as day. There's even a fire.
It's out.
No matter. See how bright the room is. And besides, how could I be afraid when I'm with you?
Marguerite, I haven't told you all. I'm afraid. Afraid.
Of the monster?
No. For the monster. I'm afraid I am the fiend.
Oh, you are ill to talk that way.
No, it's worse than that.
You're too good.
I don't know what I did last night until Zan found me in the wood.
What does Zan say?
He swore he saw me fall. and was with me every minute.
Well, surely that proves
He may have lied.
he didn't lie. It's only your illness
yes,
that
he
makes you
did.
think these dreadful thoughts.
Do you really think so? If I only knew. If I only could be sure.
You shall know. I'll prove it to you.
Oh no.
Marguerite,
no.
what have you done?
The monster cannot kill with light. Sit down, Paul. Here in the dark with me. And soon you'll know you're not the fiend.
My head. It's odd it should be worse without the lights.
Lie back and rest.
I'm afraid.
No need to be. Marguerite, it's growing dark. Only a cloud
out.
crossing the moon.
A light. Quick, a light.
Rest still. It will soon pass.
My head. A light. A light!
Paul!
What are you doing, dude? Just hanging out outside?
Get to the lake. Marguerite, is she hurt? She's unharmed. Bring her over here.
Oh, there they are. Rabble, 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 rabble. They were just saving their voices till they got within earshot.
Blood. His silence proves his guilt.
What is this, a Benny Hill sketch? They're just running through, chasing this guy.
He'll soon come to. What happened here?
I heard her scream and I rushed in.
From where? You swore not to leave her.
Well, she was with Professor Christon.
Were you here?
I was outside. I feared for Marguerite and waited on the terrace.
Are you sure, Marguerite? Quite sure?
Positive. The monster held me fast. I felt his bare teeth against my throat. I screamed, and as I did, Zan came through that window.
How can you be sure?
Outside was lighter than it was in the room. I couldn't mistake his limping, crooked form. It was the last thing I remember before I swooned.
Then who was the fiend?
I don't know.
David, go. Zan must be saved. He's coming to. Will you be good enough to leave us?
Uh-oh.
There he goes. He's heading for the cave. We'll grab him there. Come on, man.
Let's head him off at the pass.
Head him off at the pass.
Anders, what is it? I swooned.
The fiend attacked Marguerite.
Take a drink every time they say swoon.
Is she hurt?
No, she was saved in time.
Anders, was it I?
Man, really drawing this out. Cross-cutting back and forth.
Anders, tell me the truth.
I will.
Yeah.
It started nearly 40 years ago, Paul, in the darkest depths of Africa. The only white people were your parents and my dearest friend, Dr. Dupre. A monstrous bat had fastened to your mother's throat. They beat it off, but the harm is already done. You were born that night, Paul, condemned to live.
Oh, he said it.
It was Dr. Dupre who buried your parents, and a few years later, told me all. Before he died, he entrusted you to my care. He warned me to watch for your deadly mark, but you grew normally, and when manhood was reached, the danger seemed past.
Then why has it come upon me now?
Exhaustion, overwork.
And if I'm not cured, I'll go on and on.
The attacks will come closer and closer together.
So he just needs to take a vacation.
Until you will entirely become the loathsome thing your madness makes you.
Isn't it strange? They never caught me.
Not strange at all. Your faithful Zan knew from the first and protected you. Even now, he's led them off to give you an opportunity to escape.
Escape? After what I've done. But Anders, Zan is in danger. We must go to him. Come.
Wait, you're gonna kill the wrong guy. It's me. I'm the one you want.
I pray thee.
That professor, he's so good, he's willing to take the monster's place.
There he is!
Get him!
Whoa.
Sheesh.
No, that's definitely a real kid. That's not universal.
Yo, what the hell?
Bring him out! We'll hang him in the square! No!
Down here in the worm caves.
And let him rot! But we can't see him rot!
But we should watch him burn!
David, we've got the fiend! There he is! Zan is not the fiend. He's not the fiend. He only killed our children. Yes. You're wrong. I tell you, the hunchback is innocent. What? Zan arrived after the monster. The fiend already had Marguerite by the throat. No, that isn't true. David, you're mad. Yes,
It was me. I did
He
it.
heard her scream. Zan saved her from the fiend.
But he admitted his guilt.
Then who is the fiend? Marguerite was alone with Professor Christon. He lies! He lies! He lies about the master! I am not guilty! That speaks the truth. Burn the blasphemer!
He's in league with the fiend. Yes, he wants Marguerite for himself.
Professor Christon, he'll tell us what to do.
I tell you, Zan is innocent.
No! He killed my sister.
He tore Anna's throat.
David is in league with him.
Release David.
But he's a blasphemer.
He says you are the I say release him. David, my boy, promise me you will love and cherish Marguerite always.
I promise.
Look, my friends, the monster's work. You sought to kill a fiend. Well, I am he.
What?
Yes, I am the one you sought. I even sought myself. But believe me, I didn't know until tonight.
Master!
Zan knew and tried to save me from myself.
I'm the last person I would have
Anders, my
suspected.
friend, I have only one thing left to do.
All.
Jeez.
Oh,
Oh, Zan.
Zan.
Uh-oh.
David!
The professor killed the monster.
Professor Kristan is...
Gone, my child. There is no longer any fiend. Now live in peace, my children.
An invincible picture distributed by Chesterfield.
It's me, Chesterfield.
I'm Chesterfield.
I'm Chesterfield.
I just
Try
see him,
my tobacco.
I just see him like is it Chester Cheetah?
Okay, yeah, he's got sunglasses on.
right.
He's in a tobacco field.
Exactly. That's how I see it. Well, that was Condemned to Live. What did we think, Evan?
Man, kind of a sad ending.
Yeah, definitely like
Kind of a bummer.
tragic downbeat kind
Yeah.
of a thing.
Yeah, so you usually in these we get the triumphant, we lit the monster on
Yeah.
fire usually. And,
We killed him.
mission accomplished.
We got him. Yeah, no, none of that. It was yeah, not very often that you see the monster take himself out,
No.
especially back in these days.
Yeah.
And so the whole like way that they're playing with the vampire like mythos is the idea that our professor basically became a vampire because of the fact that his mother was bitten while he was in the womb.
Uh-huh.
And so
he's cursed.
it passed to him.
He
Hereditary.
inherited the vampire gene.
He inherited the vampire gene and it was dormant until he just got a little too stressed out. So that's unconventional for a vampire plot, right?
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a little it's convoluted to be sure, but it's definitely like, all right, I wouldn't expect that for 1935.
And this is even before the idea of like going postal is a thing.
No, way before that. Right? Yeah, just the idea that
The stress of your job
The
just like
stress-
makes you snap.
just start murdering people. You start ripping their throats out. Yeah, it is interesting that this guy's like vampirism is not only is it hereditary, but it's this thing that it's happening to the nicest guy in town.
Yeah.
So even when everybody's like, oh, like it couldn't be everybody's just so they don't want to believe it's the professor.
Right. It almost that part they lay it on so thick. And I don't know if maybe it's just they Lady DeWolf felt like she had to because this is such a kind of a different thing, like the monster is sympathetic.
Well, and I think that's kind of the other big thing with what this does differently in terms of the vampire portrayal is a sympathetic portrayal, one that is a little bit more nuanced than he's a suave villain and he's clearly, it's not Dracula.
You're right, yeah.
It's the opposite. Like
he's not some, murderous fiend. He's a victim in his own way.
Yeah, so that's like a an interesting play on. It's definitely what was conventional for that time. Um, but I mean, it's also like kind of the execution just leaves a little bit to be desired. I think is the
Yeah, yeah, there are, some really pretty good things about this movie. Sets were pretty good.
right.
The I mean, it's an interesting angle, and some of the writing was pretty, pretty clever. Like I liked how quickly they established the backstory
Right.
in the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, some of it was a little wooden. Some of the dialogue, a little stiff.
Right. Oh, big time. Yeah, definitely by especially towards the end, it
Yeah,
just some of it felt a little repetitive and a little I mean,
it's like yeah, this is an hour-long movie, but it's like okay, I get it.
yeah, yeah, the scene with him going toward the end with the professor going over to Marguerite's house to, call it off. I
Mhm.
mean, obviously they were trying to draw out the latter part of that scene for, you know, the
The drama.
the drama, but it went on a long time and a lot of him, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid. Which there was something cool about that. Like I
Yeah,
did,
a lot of
like I like that.
agonizing.
Right. Yeah. Which again, you just with a monster, you don't see that kind of sympathetic portrayal very often. But it's just it's drug out a little too much in certain
You
parts.
know what? I was thinking about just the idea of a sympathetic monster, and even though we don't really get that on the screen for a little bit, you can go back to not so much Dracula, but Frankenstein.
Oh, absolutely.
Frankenstein's a sympathetic monster. I mean, you feel sorry for this poor thing.
It's true. Yeah. He doesn't can't control what has happened to him. There's no, he's born that way,
And there's a lot of agonizing in that.
Oh God, yeah, oh big time. True. And arguably it's more compelling because in the first one particularly because he isn't vocal. He can't vocalize that. It's all in the emotion and the actions. And that's obviously what makes that movie and that portrayal by Karloff like legendary. When you start putting a bunch of words in and you start, you can get a little too much, but it is nice to see them kind of transfer this over to the vampire lore. And I mean, it is reminiscent of what they would do, what Universal would do with the Wolfman and with Larry Talbot. This idea of a sympathetic monster.
Yeah.
Somebody that really has no control over what is happening.
Yeah, it's somebody that's been like created in some
Right.
way. Like in, the story Dracula, I don't think they really explain why
His
or
origins.
how he came to be. He's just this evil monster.
Right. He just is.
Just is. And that's
Yeah.
scary in its own way.
Yeah. Yeah, but you do, nowadays especially people appreciate a good origin story, And if you don't have it, then somebody's going to write it at some point down the line if it's valuable IP.
And especially with, any like vampire story nowadays, like there have been so many variations on the rules of being a vampire. It kind of feels like that. I feel like it's expected that you explain what your version of the rules is
Right.
for your vampire story.
Yeah, that is the beauty of all horror like subgenres is that it's a it's kind of varies between the individual filmmaker, the writer director on all right, what's my interpretation of this mythos? Is there something different that I can kind of add or can I change these elements and create a new version of this mythos without fundamentally turning it into something else, right? That's the beauty of filmmaking, baby. That's what it's all about. These stories are just looking for, different people love vampire stories. They just want a different interpretation. They don't want Dracula for the 50th time, sorry, 500th time, unless it's actually bringing something a little new to the table. That's how you get like Renfield, which again, execution leaves a little bit to be desired, but I like the spirit of what they're trying to do.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it was definitely an interesting take.
Right. Yeah. So that you got to appreciate when somebody takes something and isn't like this could have just been a straight Dracula ripoff, like Dead Men Walk, which we watched all the way back in season 1, which was just a 40s version of Dracula, basically, except if Dracula had a twin brother who was a country doctor. And it was fun, but it was just Dracula. There wasn't like this attempt to do
But
anything
straight.
interesting besides make him a twin, which I mean, yeah, but you're not really doing, that's not a lot of work there. I would say that I like the ideas at play here, and I like I'd say there's definitely a lot to commend, but at the same time, also a 30s horror movie, indie Poverty Row horror movie. So it has this creakiness that's just to be expected with these kind of movies, but pretty I'm definitely, this will be one that I will be watching a few more times. So it'll be part of the Poverty Row playlist that I have going. Very good. That was Condemned to Live. And we are condemned to continue with all of the horror that public domain has to offer. And that's leading us into next week, which we've got an interesting movie on deck for next Friday. I don't think we've really had too many like movies with cults in them on this show.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we're going to be getting next Friday. We're going to be watching a 1961 film entitled The Devil's Hand, which is about devil worshippers in Los Angeles.
Is it a cult film?
It needs that's the job. That's why we're showing it next Friday. We're gonna start the cult. We haven't gotten our own cult going, so this will be the cult that we start a movie for, because I don't think it really has one yet. So this cult movie needs a cult. We're gonna help it get one. So join us for that mission on Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. I haven't seen, again, another one that I haven't seen, and so I'm excited for this one. And it's from the 60s, so there's always a little bit more pushing the envelope, as we saw last week with The Sadist, which definitely pushed it. So you can join us next Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern for The Devil's Hand. And of course, we're going to be back on Wednesday for another installment of Tales of Tomorrow, which took this past Wednesday off. We'll be back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern for another installment of that sci-fi anthology show. Been pretty good so far. So we'll see what kind of time traveling alien shenanigans we'll get on. We'll get on Wednesday, because it's usually that's what to expect. So
Sci-fi.
Yeah, sci-fi, yeah. It's one of the, you're getting one of two things with sci-fi. You're getting time travel, or you're getting aliens. That's it.
Yeah, if we want a agonizing created monster, we'll just need an episode about a robot.
Yeah, maybe we'll get that. Maybe we'll be on deck. I don't know what we'll be watching with Tales of Tomorrow. next week. But again, Wednesday at 9 p.m. You can catch that over on our YouTube page. Of course, we're over there at Stream Live. You can check out all of our past episodes, all of our shorts, Saturday Night Shockers, our animation spooktaculars. We got all the good stuff. So check that out, like and subscribe, and keep us in the rotation, as
Keep
it were.
growing.
Yeah, man. Broaden your horizons.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we've done 80 something movies and an equal number of mini-sodes, and again, all the specials and everything else we have, it's all on YouTube, so you can catch up. And
our spine-tingling tales.
oh, I totally forgot about that. Oh my gosh, Evan had his second part of The Yellow Sign on this past Monday. So if you haven't listened to that yet, you're getting ready to go to bed. Now's the perfect time. Get a little bit of a chill running up your spine before
A little bit of suspense built for the finale.
That's right. It's a 3-parter, and
3-parter.
Not coming on Monday though. You gotta wait. You're gonna keep
be
you in
patient.
suspense. Yeah, you're gonna have to wait till next Monday for that. But until then, this Monday, you'll get another story from another great American author. My last story was an Edgar Allan Poe. This time we're getting a little more folksy.
Okay.
I can tell you, or just leave it a surprise. I think I'll leave it a surprise. Let's just say a great American humorist. So we've got a nice little ghost story that we'll be offering up on Monday.
Does it involve the Mississippi River? You don't have to answer that.
I'll just see you're 100% on the right track.
Okay.
But yeah, so we'll have that on Monday, and then the next Monday will be the final installment of The Yellow Sign. So
the spooky finale.
Ooh, very excited for that. So again, every Monday we've got a new spine-tingling tale. So check those out. Keep that podcast in your rotation for sure. And of course, if you want to be up to date on what's going to be showing on Friday nights or what we've got going on, you can follow us over on the socials, the show. We're over on Instagram and X and TikTok at Stream Show. And of course, if you want to follow us over on the socials, you can find me over on X at Spakenstein, and Mr. Evan Sink is over on X and Instagram at Caligari Cursed. Anything before we sign off tonight?
So what we didn't see is there at the end, Zan jumps off the cliff, and it's revealed that he's not actually a hunchback. His wings unfurl.
Oh my god.
And he carries the professor off, and they live happily ever after, and it's totally fine and not a tragedy at all.
Wow. God, just didn't have the money in the budget. It's Poverty Row. Until Friday. Oh, well, Wednesday and then Friday. And our Saturday Night Shocker.
Monday.
And everything. We're always...
Until next time.
We're invading your life. Until next time. Sweet screams, everybody.
And to all a good fright.